Do it. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here to another episode of Duckman TV and Weekend Warriors. Got a special guest on, the top commentator, the man in the know in the Blacktown district, Marc the Paoli. Marc, how you going?
Very good, Matthew. Thank you very much for having me once again.
Yeah, absolutely love the Malta jersey there. What season's Malta jersey is that? That's not the current one, is it?
No, I think this is a 2012 sort of off-brand one that I picked up while I was traveling through Malta and parts of Europe earlier in the year and at the back end of last year as well. So, but a good spot. Certainly, you picked up all the ones behind me quite well before we came to air. So, but yes, it is a Malta jersey, so repping sort of one quarter of my family heritage, and it fits well.
So there you go. So we'll run through what you got behind you. So I can see two AC Milan ones. Oh no, one AC Milan one there.
Yep. There's a Paul Gascoigne Euro 96. There's a
Yeah.
Didier Deschamps Euro 96. Roger Miller right off to the side. There's a Bulldogs, forgive me, there's a Bulldogs jersey there. There is a remake of a very old JVC sponsored Arsenal jersey there. And yeah, that's it for the ones that are here. Although I did pick up the brand new Real Madrid home jersey just yesterday. So loving the jersey collection. It's coming along.
So the JVC Arsenal jersey, is that when Tony Adams was still at the club?
Yes.
That was before Arsene Wenger was coach. I'm trying to remember who was managing that side at the time.
Yeah.
I can't.
It was when they had the whole different badge as well, the previous one, which I think was actually a little classier in some ways. So yeah, a bit of a time. Certainly before my time, at least, of watching it live.
Yeah, still. So for people that don't know, that was when the English Premier League, before it started, really, they had Football League 1, 2, 3, 4. Luton have just been up in the Premier League. They were in it back then, way back then. Not Nottingham Forest were in it. They were competitive. Sheffield Wednesday, who people would not be accustomed if they were all up there as well. They had a pretty good Arsenal team then too. Paul Merson, Ian Wright, all these sorts of superstars. David Seaman, Lee Dixon. Pretty good team back then. Handy players.
Indeed, they were. Ian Wright's a favourite of mine.
Yeah. So a lot of people. So who would you rate as your favourite Arsenal player of all time? Now we're rolling with that.
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't think you can look past the elegance of Dennis Bergkamp if you don't sort of appreciate football in a broader context of just sort of goals and assists. I think he was majestic and was just magical to watch. Makes you think about sort of a non-robotic form of football that's quite modern today. He was sort of in between that. He was sort of era defining, I think, at least for those sort of late 90s, early O's Arsenal teams. Massive fan of his. I'd probably have to say him, actually, the non-flying Dutchman. He's the first one that came to my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I loved him. So I loved him when he went from PSV to Inter Milan with Wim Jonk. I followed Inter Milan, then Inter Milan and Rangers, and was absolutely devo when he left. Devastated when he left Inter Milan. It was a massive loss. Great number 10. Went to Arsenal and really helped build their side up with Ian Wright and some other players that had come through in the future, Nicholas Anelka and all these sorts of guys, Thierry Henry. They had some mad team. Sylvain Wiltord. You would probably know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Some people that don't follow Arsenal won't resonate with all these guys, but
no, Man United fans know exactly who Wiltord is as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Just stirring the pot. Sorry.
Yeah. So still, I think Arsenal's still the only side that won the Premier League undefeated too. Was that 2001 and 2?
2003 and 4, and I think the only other team in English history top flight was Preston in 1920. So we're talking over 100 years ago at this point. So it's a pretty momentous occasion. I don't think it's the greatest achievement in the history of the Premier League. I think there's been teams that are better than that Arsenal Invincibles, but it's an achievement that no one else besides some now passed on Preston players will be able to look upon. But it's a pretty significant thing still.
Yeah, and for people that understand how good Preston were then, Preston were the equivalent of probably, I don't know what, Manchester City. Then they were dominant. Even in the 50s, they were good. They were next level sort of stuff. They were the benchmark side, or one of the benchmark sides, top 3 or 4 sides within the whole competition. So, which not many people can say that. So, people look at Preston now like, who are they? No, well, you have to give them a bit of respect. Their history is long and steeped and lasts a lot longer than like the form is a little bit temporary. They're going through a tough patch at the moment, like plenty of other clubs have.
Yep.
All right, so we'll keep kicking on here. So last time I had a chat to you, you coming through the ranks, Blacktown match day commentator. You're doing a lot of stuff. You're running all the social media now, so everything for Spartans and Blacktown Football Association as well. How do those two roles intertwine with each other?
At the end of the day, or perhaps at the start of the day, I should say, the first point of call for me is to promote the wonderful things that are happening in football in Blacktown, whether that be the association or it be a representative arm in the Blacktown Spartans. It's my job to keep our fans and the people who are involved, our 11,900 plus members of the association, just to keep them involved. It's to thank volunteers. It's to show people the good things that people are doing within our community, and it's to highlight achievements. Really, that is the point of what I do, whether it's for Spartans or it's for the BDSFA. It's just a slightly different, I guess, level. But the point of what I do is to point out the good things that others are doing.
Yeah. So how do they choose? So I'm interested to know this. How do they choose who gets to match it around and that stuff? Is that something you go through, or is this something that Blacktown go through and they look at based on form and score quality and that when they work it out? Because I know they
The
can announce that a few weeks ahead, so they've got a rough idea what they want.
Sure. Specifically, we're talking about like that Blacktown local Premier League. Yes, I'm just confirming.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
like what does Bill Owen get involved in that?
The match of the round is predetermined at the start of the year in order to give every team one home game. So whether that be at the start of the season or the end of the season, funnily enough, I had someone ask me this today as well, away from the sort of spotlight here. But yes, so the point is to give every team one home game, which is where they get an opportunity to promote their sponsors as well. So that's how it's done, and we make it fit however need be.
Yeah. So there's some really good quality football getting played at the moment in the Blacktown Premier League. For people who are not aware of it, they might think it's a bit of a back kicker league. I wouldn't think so. With the likes of Prospect have sides in that might go, and they're not very strong yet. Well, they've got a side in Football New South Wales League 3 who are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
They're one of the strongest sides, and it's a strong district. And the funny thing is, to see a lot of players from when I coach, the players filter back from MPL level back into that level and regularly playing week in, week out in either Deploy Premier League 1 or I don't know if any are playing in Deploy Premier League 2 with Oakville United or Quakesteel Tigers or anything like that. But there's good quality opposition. So it must be pretty good to be watching these games week in, week out as well and commentating the games.
It's an honor. It really is. At this point in the, and I say this to people who ask me similar questions, sort of just in general conversation. But at the point now where I've known these players for the ones who've been around for the entire time that I have been there, I've known them for 3 years now. So I'm very aware of moments that I've been able to cover that they've had in games, whether it be 2 years ago, 1 year ago, or early in the season. I feel a very personal relationship with a lot of the players, and they will come to me and thank me for some of those moments that I give them, and they can share sort of to their family, friends, and social media, for example. But yes, it's a very strong quality competition. There is MPL talent littered throughout. Players who are very capable and have been and show that they can go and play at the MPL level if they so choose to. The thing is, the reason why players enjoy dropping down to this level once they've had their MPL experience and had that high level coaching is because unless you're at sort of a national second division level club and you're at a Sydney United, you're at a Blacktown City, or not that they're in the second division anyway, but like sort of one of those very top, higher end, higher echelon MPL 1 clubs, you sort of don't get a really huge A, payout, but also B, not really looked after in the same sort of way. And a lot of these local Premier League clubs are so homely. And I can speak from experience from our 17 Premier League teams, whether it be from Quakesteel Tigers or it be all the way out to Oakville. They look after these players so much. The Premier League is really the highlight of people's weekends. It's what people stick behind it and volunteer for, make sure the nets are tight and set up. That's what people look forward to. It's how they represent themselves as a club in a lot of ways. A lot of people show face through the Premier League, and so there's a lot of pride in it, and they look after their Premier League players so well. So yes, absolutely, lots of NPL experience, particularly in the youth ranks, and some who made it to 20s or reserve grade level. Very high quality competition. It's an honour to be able to cover it.
So the good thing I've seen with Blacktown too, this is one thing I really like. So I've been in the PAN, spent decades playing in the PAN. Blacktown have a structure that replicates what the NPL level is: first grade, reserves, or then down to under 21s, right? So
Yeah. Yes.
in the PAN, there's been a discord until the last couple of years of that. So they really replicate the best they can. So for people who don't know, so like in NPL level now, there's not really reserve grade level. It's first grade, under 20s, under 18s. But it does the same thing in carryover age players in the squad, but it's the emphasis is on developing young talent, bring young talent through. It's a youthful competition. You become an old man quickly in it. Some of the older guys are kicking around, will probably be able to tell you. So you come back to a local Premier League competition, and it is high standard, good quality football, and they're good role models for some of the players in the local area. So too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the Premier League level is good in that it's a lot of all the players are very well behaved. They play at the top level. They know it's not the World Cup final, but they know it's, if they don't perform well enough, then particularly for some of the games that are actually on camera, live streamed as well, there's still very much pride involved. So it's a lot of the players care about it probably as much as I do, and it's my job. And it's good to see that that's sort of reciprocated in that way. So, the reason why I have loved and will always put in a lot of effort to making sure that, the coverage is of a high standard, or so I would like to say, is because the players care that much. They will come each week, Tuesday and Wednesday nights, to record our podcast, for example, to do a pre-match segment where we chat for 15 to 20 minutes about, the form of the last performance that they featured on, or previous matches against their opponents in the upcoming weekend. Because there is so much passion, it deserves the respect the competition gets.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I like about it being like the local based teams, they do resonate with their communities. St. Pat's resonate with the people around Doonside area. Doonside on the other side of the railway line, they resonate with their local community too, Mariong, and you can go right through all of them. Oakville United, they've got their place out in the Hawkesbury there. So the only club in that area that's in the Blacktown competition. So until you start to head a bit close to Riverston and that, the rest they're up against all in the PAN clubs. It's pretty hard to stand your ground, and they stand their ground very well. So one thing I've seen this year and I really liked is saw the merger of the Phoenix League. So the Phoenix League, for what people don't know, was the Women's Premier League between Blacktown and Granville, and now merged with Hills Football Association as well to create a Premier League competition. So how does the setup of that work? Who contributes what to that, and how has that been this year so far?
Yeah, for sure. Let me just make a couple of clarifications, if you don't mind. I hate to correct. I just want to make sure it's 100% in people's minds. So
Yeah.
the Phoenix League exists in name as still a youth competition. So from anything from sort of 12s to 18s and 21s, it still exists. So that's the Phoenix League there, us in tandem with Granville. But the Women's Premier League now, as it's called, is in tandem with Hills, ourselves, and Blacktown, and also Granville. So it's 3 associations. So it's quite a lot of trips across the M7 in particular. But it's been fantastic in its inaugural year. Once again, like I've seen straight away with the men's competition, even down to just coming onto the podcast and giving it full effort, there has been so much enthusiasm around. And it's not been easy because there isn't a feeder reserve grade team at the moment. There isn't a feeder 21s, for example, to call on. You have to call upon your 18s or 17s teams, really, if you're lucky enough to have them within your club. So because it's in its first year, we're still building its numbers and its popularity. But the way that the players have responded, and the way in which the coaches are so passionate about seeing results come, seeing results come their way, it's been wonderful. I'm so happy that Hills and Granville and ourselves and the decision makers around there got behind it this year. And to go back to your question about how does it work, so sort of all the competition managers from Hills, Granville, and ourselves at Blacktown sat down at the start of the year and said, this is how it'll work. This is how the match of the round schedule as well will work. We'll get X amount of home games, for example. home games played at the sort of big three representative venues. So Valentine Sports Park at the start of the M7 for Hills games, Blacktown Football Park for Blacktown games, and Melita Stadium has been used for the Granville games, and it's just been great. I'm sure the travel time's not been fantastic for a Sunday afternoon for some, but all the players have been really keen, and the fans too.
And the quality of the players is good too, isn't it? Because it's really this year and last year, the first 2 years, the MPL women's competition has really started to grow as well. So there are players we're going to see that go from this level up to the next level quite quickly. So through Hills Football Association, Parramatta FC, Blacktown Spartans or Blacktown City, who both have sides in MPL, women's MPL 1 and stuff like that. So it is a good stepping stone in the year of the Women's World Cup in Australia too. Are you excited about seeing that?
I am. And before I sort of elaborate on that, I just wanted to add in, you sort of mentioned something that sort of sparks something in my mind. And as a male, I need to be careful how I phrase this, but as respectfully as I can say this, a lot of male athletes wouldn't have to understand. I don't understand how, but female athletes are allowed to live their own lives. They will happily, they want to start families. So what the Women's Premier League has created, I found this year, is it's created a platform and a place for female players who have started families, to come back to the sport that they were once at high levels, and they decided to step away for personal reasons. And I think if it's a that makes it sounds like it's a competition specifically for that. It's not. It's been a place for that to happen and facilitate that. And it's no different to any, person who's a male who calls himself a has-been going back to a local Premier League competition for the men. So I think that's been fantastic as well. That it's provided that platform to do that and the quality of football to do that. Now, the Women's World Cup, I'm delighted. I hope that everybody has tickets for every game that they can possibly get. I hope people are happy to travel to all up and down across the coast. I hope that we get let into New Zealand and there's no COVID restrictions still happening there, and we can just go there to watch the games there as well. I think it is going to be the ultimate opportunity for promotion of this game, specifically for women, but just young kids in general to play the game. And that's really what I want to see. The World Cup in 2006, when we did so well with the men's, sparked, and even up the back of 2005 when we won the penalty shootout against Uruguay, it sparked very high registrations the following year and year after that. It was similar in 2010 when we did so well. It was similar in 2014 as well. And I've got a feeling that off the back of the World Cup that was pushed back into December last year, and now this one happening at home as well, it's going to be fantastic.
I think it will be very good. And what's the closest games we're going to get out around our way? We're going to be Combank Stadium. Is that probably the closest?
Combank Stadium will be used. I mean, Valentine Sports Park being used for the French national team to train. So if you can jump over the boarded off. If you can jump over the boarded off fences that they've put all around the place, you literally cannot see into either the hotels or any of the main fields. So it is seriously all happening around the place. But yes, Combank will be used. The former ANZ, now Accor Stadium Australia is what I guess I could call it, is going to be used rather frequently, and of course for the final as well. So it is all happening, and it is all happening right at our doorstep.
Yeah, and so for people don't understand, the Australian women's team are ranked in the top 4 in the world and have a serious chance of winning this competition. And we've got local homegrown talent from the Blacktown area. So players like Kaya Simon is going to be in the squad. I'm not sure what other players we've got from around the western suburbs or Blacktown area in the squad. I haven't had a real good look at it.
Kaya Simon is a Quakers Hill junior.
Yep.
So right there in Quakers Hill Park, which is where I was commentating on Sunday, funnily enough. Courtney Nevin, who is a right fullback or even centre back at times. She is from Oakville, so right in that Hawkesbury region. She's an Oakville Raven junior, and proudly so. In terms of Spartans representation as well, the latter who I just mentioned, she was Courtney Nevin's been to the Spartan system. Kai Cooney Cross has been to the Spartan system. Chloe Wheeler-Garza, who has had a lot of injury concerns and didn't make the squad because of that, but would have been should she have been match fit. She has also spent time in Spartans colours as well. There is someone who I'm forgetting, and I should be kicking myself, and I am underneath the table. Another right fullback who's made the squad and been to the Spartan system as well. So there is a lot. There's a lot, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and the good thing is a lot of the girls, Australian girls, they're not just good quality players in Australia. They're going overseas and proving themselves overseas as well, which is massive. You only just have stacks of players all over the place. The Women's English Premier League is becoming massive as well. It's getting huge attention with girls like Sam Kerr, people like Alicia Lehman, who people like. So she's on Instagram 70,000 times a day. So plenty of content if you want to check out anything they do. But it's just massive. It's got a good reputation now. I really feel like this World Cup is going to be something that propels it to a next level. And hopefully do see, like you said, the Women's Premier League competition between Hills, Blacktown, and also Granville. And the good thing is there's a lot of very young girls coming through who are good quality players and will go up to the NPL level, up to the W League level, and then go further and further with their careers. And then there's women who've chosen to have families or got professional careers and this sort of stuff as well. And it's got suitable opportunities for them as well. So there's not lessening anything that they do or have done or anything like that. It's just the reality of life. So if you want to have a family, so some of these women are going to come back and play, they're not always going to go back and play at World Cup level straight off the bat. So, and you've got some very good quality players out there. So, all Blacktown Premier League games and everything like that you've done this year. So, what's been who's been the standout club you've seen at the moment this season in the competition? So, I know the last couple of years it does change around from time to time. So, who do you think the benchmark is this year?
Well, certainly in the second division, it's been Quakers Hill Tigers who have mathematically confirmed promotion as of last week's win over Paoli, which was awesome. The celebrations were thoroughly deserved and they looked fantastic. And I'm so proud of that group. Also from the PL2, Oakville are a lot of fun to watch. They've had 4 results this year that have been 4-2, either for them or against them. So they're a scorer of and a conceder of many goals in their games. In the Premier division, in the Division 1. Obviously, right now it is Marion who is sitting at the top. And I go back to what I said about Dennis Bergkamp. It's sort of the lack of a modern football approach, or they're not the team who kick the crap out of each other or the other team the most. They actually play really lovely football. They have a 6 who drops in between the centre backs who split, and the wingers the fullbacks who push up almost like wingers who do this to come into central positions and make numerical advantages all over the pitch. It's awesome to watch. It's tactically ahead of its level. They press when they need to, but they don't really, which is sort of allows them to be at their best when they're on the ball and fittest and full of stamina when they're on the ball. So I love the way that Marion plays. They are the standouts. They will secure a club championship almost assuredly next week. So across reserve and first grade accrue the most points. But also, I think another standout team has been Ropes Crossing, who had a change of coach after their second game, going into their third. They struggled in the match of the round, which was only their second game under new coach Tony Mifsud. Of course, Mifsud, you can tell by the last name where he's from. Yeah. And he's been fantastic. And Ropes are now pushing up right up high, and they've broken into that top 5, if my memory serves me correctly. And my last look at the table serves me correctly. Yes, so 31 over Workers in first grade. So very, very good. But the standouts are Marion, and I highly suggest you catch a glimpse of them. Or just wait to the grand final because I'm sure they'll be there.
Yeah. So anyone that plays with a 6, if you play with a 6 properly, you'll drop them in as an anchor anyway. You will play your fullbacks high, left and right. And once upon a time, I used to play left fullback. I could not play like a modern wingback. That's not the style I played. I played a bit more like Vinnie Jones or Julian Dix. Didn't mind busting them up a bit. That was my style. That suited well for the time, but it's very outdated now.
I would never have run down your flank, mate. Don't worry. I would have stayed on the other side of the pitch.
Yeah, there's a reason why I got 36 yellow cards and 6 red cards. So it didn't go missing from too many challenges, I can tell you that. So they're not all bad. They're just, if you're a defender or a goalkeeper, you're going to wear that. It is like a badge of honour. So yeah, there's a few hard men out there in the Blacktown district too that I've seen. But the quality of football, do have to say, it's dynamic, right? Not every club plays the same style. Like I know the general philosophy is that Australian football curriculum people want to play 4-3-3 with two in the middle, one on top of the diamond, in the middle there behind a striker and two wingers. So people think, oh, they're just going to lump it long, push the fullbacks up with swing backs and play like that. But that's not how every side plays at all. They all play differently. And due to their football heritage too, have different football philosophies as well, which makes it harder to break things down when you play. So interested to hear that Tony Mifsud took over at Ropes Crossing, because what is Steve Knight stepped down? What happened with that?
Yeah, look, Stevie is a guy who I only met once when he came on to do the podcast, because the PL1 first game of the season was Doonside versus Ropes. And therefore, we brought both of those two teams on for a pre-match of the round chat, as we do and have done for 2 years now. And I became a friend with him on Facebook as well. So I've been following him a little bit, and I've chatted to him every now and then. It was just an availability thing, from what I understand.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy, speaks really highly of a lot of the players, is very aware of where some of the players, not just for his team, but other teams have come from, because he's been in the NPL world at sort of the older ages of youth for a long time, and locally as well. But I'm pretty sure he's just finished last week building the room for his firstborn. So when that firstborn does hopefully come safely into the world, that's where his time will be. And you know what? Fair enough.
That's good. And yeah, so if people didn't know, Steve came from Hawkesbury City FC, playing
Correct.
under Dean Burtonshaw. So, and Dean's doing got a tough job this year, actually. Now they've merged all the NPL Football League levels together. But he's still coaching, doing a pretty good job out there in the Football League too with Hawkesbury. So they had a win the other day too. Actually, who did they beat? Trying to think off the top of my head. I should know because I just went through this last night. Fraser Park. They beat Fraser Park the other day.
Oh, really?
2-0. 2-0, I think it was. At David Burtonshaw Oval. So they're pretty happy with that. So I didn't play many games at home last year. Didn't play any games at home last year. So you watched the A-League last year as well. Obviously, I'm very chuffed. Mariners got the win. I was at the grand final.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
6-1. Fabulous win. So
close one.
So yeah, so as a Sydney FC fan and just a general casual A-League fan as well, what did you make of the A-League this season, the standard? And then like the grand final's fabulous for the Mariners. Actually the game was pretty exciting as well, really. I thought Melbourne City were taking it up for a bit. What did you think of the standard of the whole league in general, and the community buying into the competition this season?
Well, first and foremost, the longer I go on working in football, the less bias I become towards my own team. So, Sydney FC fan, yes, but it was fantastic to see Wanderers perform well, which brought back a lot of fans. In terms of what that means as someone who was, I always have to explain this, but I guess I'll put it out there into the world. So, yes, born in Western Sydney. But family has all come from and originated from parts of Eastern Sydney, which moved over here when I was very young. And then also, I really got into football when Del Piero joined Sydney FC, who is Italian, and you can tell by my last name why that would mean a lot to me. So that's how I got into the A-League, mainly at Sydney FC. But yes, as someone who appreciates what the Wanderers do for this game and what their fans bring, I think it was fantastic to see them back. There were times at the start of the year. I was overseas in Germany, funnily enough in Munich when this happened. But obviously there was the debacle, which seems like so long ago, between the Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City fans, with a couple of pitch invasions. But considering that hasn't actually clouded the achievements of Socceroos representatives who came through the A-League or still do ply their trade in the A-League, a fantastic final series, a fantastic run in for the top six. I think the A-League this year has been a rip-roaring success. We've seen crowds start to come back. We've seen teams who were pleading with fans and sponsors and stakeholders and shareholders to find ways to get money into the club win the whole thing this year. They've sold 3 players, I think, for over $1 million in the last 3 years now. So they must be financially viable, the Mariners. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's just been great to see. An ultimate underdog story, fans coming back into the stadiums, bums on seats. What more can you want?
Yeah, so I'll disclose it. So I was born in Western Sydney, born in Auburn. I tell everybody I'm Albanese or from Auburn on. So It's an area joke. If you're involved in football, you get it. So if you're not, they're not going to try to explain it to you, right? So there's a massive Middle Eastern heritage and people living in the area. So born in Auburn anyway. So loved the Mariners when they first come into the A-League. So I had a choice of three Sydney teams. Sydney FC, I didn't really resonate with that because they were making out they were Bling FC.
Yeah.
Despite the fact I worked in Bondi for a while, that didn't particularly resonate with me, and I wasn't particularly close to Newcastle. So going from Central Coast, and my grandmother was from that area and lived up that area for quite a while when I was growing up. It was a pretty easy fit. No, like family club, so that's how I've come about that. And it is good to see because we nearly fell over. I was riding them out. I was at the game when we lost 8-2 to Newcastle Jets at home. It's just hard, right? You got to ride these things out when you're a fan. You stick there through thick and thin. One thing I did like this year, so yeah, other than winning the A-League, I thought the competition was close. So Melbourne City won it by a fair bit. Second, third, and fourth. Every week I was on the radio, I was checking it every week. Adelaide was on top, like second, and then the Mariners, then West Sydney, and it kept on rotating until the last day. And that's how you want a competition to be. You want it to go down to the last day. Mariners beat Adelaide. West Sydney had to win and win by some margin, and they couldn't pull it off. So the Mariners finished second. Adelaide were third. West Sydney were fourth, and that's just how it works. And that's a good thing about football. So it was really close this year. One surprising thing, Melbourne victory, like that whole crowd thing that happened, that just seemed to derail their whole season. The wheels came off the bus. They never got going again after that. It was pretty bad to see. So the fans got to have a bit of a think about themselves. A few people think it's like Green Street hooligans. It's not. The actual real people's lives and real people out there dealing with it. And one good thing I suppose I've seen this year at the A-League too, a lot of players have now kicked on other than just Mariners players. Got Tom Glover and plenty of other players that all starting to move on and get European transfers. So the European transfers, people might go, oh, don't let go of the guy. That money helps pay for your next year's salary cap. So 2.5 million, you can sell 2 or 3 players, well, you might be able to cover the cost of that. So it stops owners from having to bleed a fair bit of cash because that's how the European clubs do it. That's how they make their money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So should there be money in local level football?
As in, should a local Premier League player get paid, for example?
Yeah. Do you think there should be money at that level?
Well, it's allowed. You are more than entitled to give a player more than just free registration. You can pay them as much money as you'd like to play for them, well, for you. Do I think that they should? No. There are some clubs who I know make their players pay registration, and they've been very successful. I won't name them. There are some clubs who definitely would offer some incentives, not just free registration to attract players, and fair enough as well. I think there's a debate to be had that NPL players shouldn't necessarily get paid, or maybe not even, or at least be able to, or at least be told to play for free. But that's a discussion for another day. That's a bit more difficult to sort of talk about. But yeah. But there's an argument to be had. I don't even know if I agree with it yet. I need to hear both sides before I remember hearing it the other day and thinking, I could sort of see why that makes sense. But yeah, so no, I don't think we need it. But if clubs offer it, then why not? It's their finances to control.
Yeah, I had a chat with president from another club, won't say where, the other week. And by the other week, I mean about a week and a half ago, and he's telling me about his result. He had a draw. It'd be easy enough to work out sooner or later. Had a draw in Deploy Premier League 1. And yeah, just tell me they're struggling. And yeah, it feels sorry for the situation because it's hard. So they got strong juniors coming through. I think there's a lot to be said for working with junior talent that you got and bring it through and help develop and nurture that. And do like what the Mariners did. The Mariners had a team, other than Jason Cummings, the Mariners effectively had a team of people didn't know. Yeah. So, and they worked with that and developed that over several years to get it right, and got the guys from like Central Coast Youth Academy level, 14s, 15s, 16s. That's kept going through, add a player here, add a player there, lose a couple of players here and there. And just got it to, I honestly didn't think that we'd finish first. I said fourth to sixth would be a good result at the start of the year, and people go, "Oh, look at you got it wrong, didn't you?" I'll play it safe. I've been involved in football for like 35
I get
years,
it.
so
Yeah,
try to play it a bit conventional and safe. So you can't go out there and go, "Oh, we're going to win every game. We're going to finish with 81 points, win 27 matches." That's not going to happen. So that's not the realism of
yeah.
the A League. You think the salary cap's been doing a good job the last couple of years? Because I think it's really equalised the field.
I would agree with exactly what the last point of what you said just then was. It has brought a level playing field, and it is required teams to go deep into resources outside of playing staff or coaches to scout and to and to find talent and utilize that. I think my club, Sydney FC, haven't utilized that to their best in recent years. I can prove that objectively with a couple of stats. It's not worth it, but let me take my word for it. That there are, I mean, far out. I mean, the guy that Mariners have just lost at the back, Triantis, who's gone off to Sunderland for €500,000,
Yeah,
so a lot more money Australian, um, was playing in the Wanderers at NPL2 level no more than 2 years ago. So,
yeah,
um, how do you justify missing out on that?
yeah.
Is what I would say, and those who are getting it right, i.e., and very obviously the outlying example is that of the Mariners, who have got it so right. Sam Silvera's made them a lot of money now. He's good friends with a lot of the Blacktown Spartans players, so he's been around these parts for a while. And it was the Central Coast Mariners who gave him the start he needed. And now the 22-year-old's off to do big things.
Yeah, it's even you look at Socceroos goalkeeper and captain for a long time there, Matt Ryan. So I think he's pretty out there talking about it. So he lived in a housing commission house, grew up with his mother and his sister, and the housing commission out around Blackett. So played for Good Shepherd. So and then went to Blacktown City, played there. His mum worked really hard to get him into Blacktown City and all that stuff. Westfield Sports High School as well. And he kicked on. Look what he did. Went played in World Cups. Done very well for Australia. Played professional overseas. Made
Yeah.
his money back. Helped his mum get a house. So anyone can do it. The opportunities are there. So it's not like only just for rich people or anything like that. Football's a great equaliser of talent too. So uh, you're not going to necessarily go any better just because you come from a rich upbringing compared to somebody that doesn't have any money at all, which is good.
Yeah. He's a Plumpton Oakhurst junior as well, so they still get a cut of. It's one of our 24 BDSFA clubs, and they still get a cut of every transfer fee that he accrues with his illustrious career. So that's pretty cool.
There you go. So that's one thing I actually genuinely think this should happen more in professional sports. So if you come from a junior club, your junior club should probably get, this is just my opinion only, so it's not advocated across the board. I think it should be your junior club where you played whatever level you declare as your junior club should get 1% probably of your salary. If you're on $1 million a year, you're not going to really notice that 10,000, but they will notice that because that's going to help probably fund their club for the whole year. So little things like that can make a big difference to the bottom end, like the small clubs that we're talking about who are on the ground. They need to run barbecues and all this sort of stuff
Mm-hmm.
to get people to help fund the bottom end of it all. So we'll go back to the commentary again. So, or you're commentating. So, what's been your highlight of the year so far this year in the
Oh,
Blacktown Premier League?
easily a an earlier match in the season when Quakers Hill Juniors in the Men's Premier League One were hosting um, Riverstone Schofields at Blacktown Football Park. Quakers went up 3-0 inside 21 minutes, and come the end of the 92nd minute, Rivo had scored a winner to break it 4-3 in their favour. Cue some incredible celebrations, true pandemonium out there. Um, and it could end up being three really critical points because they're struggling quite badly at the moment. And the threat of relegation is looming, which is a real and scary thing even at this level. But that it was a game where I'd seen a comeback like no other. It was from the 21st minute onwards, something clicked, and Rivo just had that bit between their teeth. And I would like to say I did okay, and the way I covered that. I still go back and listen to it and relive the moment quite often. Usually on the way to work, I'll listen to the last 26 minutes or so. That's how long it takes me to get there to work with no tolls. And that's I just listen to it and I enjoy it and relive the moment. Certainly the highlight.
That's the best thing I love about commentating is you get excited when you see exciting things come out, and I get referred to as Daryl Eastlake because I just let it all out. When you get excited, you can't just sit there and go, "Oh, and he's going up the outside," and "Oh, he scored a pretty good goal." If you don't get excited by that, you're
Yeah.
in the wrong job. So
Yeah.
it's good to see. So I sent a highlight, one of the highlights you put on Facebook. Is that one where they cracked the goal? It might have been reverse Schofields. They cracked the goal from about 35 metres out towards the right hand side. I volleyed it in the top left hand corner or something like that to get the
I think it
equaliser.
was. I think. Oh, was that in a match of the round game or was that like a goal of the week
Yeah, I
sort of
think it
thing?
might have been a match of the round game. Yeah, like I don't know if that was like a month ago or a bit longer ago than that. So, but I saw that and went, that is something special.
Yeah, it's not sort of sparking my memory right off the bat, but there are some very special goals that have been scored this year. There are some very special players who are very capable of doing special things. There have been some cracking goals, certainly. Um, Not always at the highest Premier League level, even though we had the goal of the year, which was member voted, scored in a match of the round last year. But there have been some wonderful strikes.
Yep. So, seen any keepers scoring any long range goals yet this year?
No, we haven't had a an Asmir Begovic moment. We haven't had a who else has scored from we haven't had a Rogerio Ceni moment. No,
Yeah.
the goalkeepers have been pretty tame this year.
There, I remember watching Peter Schmeichel drop a couple on the goalpost
Yeah.
years ago. I'm trying to remember who was in goal, who it was against. One of them was against Wimbledon. Neil Sullivan was in goal, and Neil
Mm,
Sullivan was off the line. And I think he did it to G him up. He dropped one on the crossbar. Neil Sullivan just saw white, and next thing you know, the ball's gone off for out for a goal kick. So from a goal kick, just went okay. It's different
yeah.
when you're watching someone with like 95-meter range dropping them onto the
Yeah.
crossbar and that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. It is,
Dangerous. Hey.
yeah, absolutely. So, doing all the commentary and being involved in football again, is that sparking your fire to get back playing?
Yes, absolutely. I've taken up what's called the European Cup at Wanderers Fives next door to the BDSFA office. So we won our first trial game, something like 14-4, which was wonderful. So that's Thursday nights, which I will thoroughly enjoy. I was never the best footballer, nor would I have been able to make it at even just Premier League level, for example. So, yeah, when the over 35 competition does come around in 13 years, I will be certainly jumping on that. But I've got a little bit of time to wait for that.
Yeah, pinning your hopes. And by the time that comes around, I'll be nearly able to play over 60s comp, which is scary as well. So,
No, I'm sure you'll still be getting red cards in that. Don't you worry.
yeah, I can't retire until I get at least 50 yellow cards and 10 red cards. So that's on the cards as well. That's going to
Hmm.
happen if we keep on playing. Um,
Oh man.
so the EPL. So what do you
Mm.
make of the EPL this year? So Arsenal lost. So your side, unfortunately, I just think they got too far in front. Um, they just have to do what you got to do. You got to be able to go out and win the games and that sort of stuff. Maybe that got to them a little bit mentally. They got the jitters, I think, to some level, because they got out so far in front. And Manchester City, they've just looked at it like we've been there, we've done this before a few times against Liverpool now. So uh, they've had to grind it out and come
Yeah.
from behind, and they did it again. So the pressure was off them really once they
Yeah.
were behind. So only just had to keep winning. Whereas Arsenal, I do think it affected them mentally a couple of times. They dropped some games they could have won. They probably should have won the Premier League this year, and
Yeah.
it's definitely the best chance they've had since the early 2000s.
Yeah, certainly. No team in the Premier League era, so since '92, has over 30 years now has dropped uh, a winning lead more times than Arsenal when they've been top of Christmas. As of Christmas, Arsenal's done it 4 times now where they've been top of Christmas and have got it wrong and not won the league. So that's a pretty bad record to have actually. And they're coming kind of unfortunately infamous or synonymous with that title of bottlers. Really, I think the credit needs to be given to. I think the credit. Maybe I sound like an Arsenal fan when I say this. I don't really identify wholly as an Arsenal fan. They're the team that I watch if they're on, certainly. But this might sound like I'm deflecting a little bit. But I think the brilliance of Man City, despite the 115 alleged charges against them due to financial mismanagement, let's say, I think that their brilliance is beyond measure. I have not seen a team dominate big clubs so easily as I have in the last sort of 20 games in all competitions of Manchester City. The way that they've utilized John Stones, the way that Ruben Diaz has come back into the fold, the way that Rodri has come in to be one of the best players in the world, honestly, has been Bernardo Silva. I mean, Haaland. I can just keep going on. Their brilliance was has always taken a little bit, especially when there's been big changes at Man City personnel wise. So Haaland being the big one, it's always taken a little bit for it to click, and it clicked at the right time. And Arsenal saw that beast coming, and the worst thing they could do was lose both games against City, home and away, and then also in the cup as well. So look, they did bring it upon themselves. They can point to injuries, this and that. Jesus out for 3 months. They can point to Saliba missing the back end of the season. But they have themselves to blame, and I think it'll make them better for it in the long run.
Well, I think they'll be a lot more resolute next year. I thought Manchester City would drop the ball a bit when Sergio Aguero left. When Erling Haaland came in, Erling Haaland, I love Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and I can tell you now, quality-wise and everything like that, he is in that mold. So if he becomes the new Zlatan and starts talking, Erling does this, Erling does that, I'm telling you now, I'll follow him. I'll get an Erling Haaland too if that happens, because
Go for it.
he is some sort of good player that is absolute quality. He's won competitions where he's gone. He's talking about challenging himself and potentially going to Real Madrid. I would not maybe do that myself. It's pretty hard to say no to the amount of money that's get chucked around. But how do you think Manchester City will end up playing that whole situation? Because I don't imagine it doesn't look like a guy that's going to stay in one place for 10 years.
No, I think he has a bone to pick of sorts in other parts of the world. I think he's now done it in his homeland. He's done it in Austria. He's done it in Germany. He's done it now in England already. He's already done it. He has conquered a treble. Only the second ever English team in the Premier League era to do so, besides their crosstown rivals in the Devils. So I think he'll be the kind of person who moves. I think Real Madrid is calling mainly because also Barcelona don't have their finances sorted, and he's not the kind of Barcelona sort of player and doesn't fit that mold at all. But he's great. I mean, for someone who's 6 to 8 months older than me, which is a very strange thing to say, he's a kid as well. Like
So he's like 23 years old, isn't he? 23, 24.
22 even. Like I think he's quite young. So like he's a kid who admits he plays PlayStation. He, like his favorite food is like getting kebabs. Like that's it. He's I sort of not identify, but I see like there's a human in there, which I think is great.
He's
And
normal.
he's also a wicked footballer. Yeah, and the funny thing is as well, he actually underperformed in a lot of ways. Like he missed a couple of chances where you go, you should have scored that. So if he even just takes it up 5% next year, we're looking at something seriously scary.
Yeah, I know. At the moment, so people are asking how long will he be around for? Alan Shearer got asked, "Do you think he'll break the scoring record in the Premier League?" And Shearer said no, because he's going to have to punch out like what did Alan Shearer get 250 goals or something like that. He's going to have to do seriously like 10 years of service in the EPL to get that. So even if he did 2 or 3 now, if he keeps up at his current rate, I think he'll be on track to do it. But then that means he's going to have to come back again at some time later in the future at the same rate of currency he's getting them now and do the same thing. So it would be a tall ask to do that indeed. I think like you got a club like Juve's probably got his name on it. So
okay, I see
in
that.
Italy down the track. So
I love big strikers.
yeah, I'd love to see him play at Inter. I don't know if Inter's going well enough at the moment. We've got the money. Juve's got the reputation. They're probably going to get him in the door. And Real Madrid, I could see him doing that. I could also, strangely enough, see him playing in America at some time. So
yeah,
because of the money that's there, but it might be an end of career sort of thing for him. So for someone as good as Erling Haaland, he's got the world at his feet, literally. what he's got coming up. So with the Socceroos at the moment, they're doing a rebuild. So we had an excellent World Cup. No one doubts we had an excellent World Cup. Could have potentially done a little bit better. Could have perhaps got another win and propelled us into the next level. That would have been interesting because I actually think we would have got a half decent draw and had a fair chance being able to bounce through some of the cannon fodder sides like France. So and stuff like that. But it wasn't going to get any. Everyone goes, "Oh, could have beaten Argentina." It could beat anybody any day. Like it's one goal in it. So, do you think Graham Arnold at the end of the game employed the right tactics, going a 4-2-4 and trying to lump the ball up forward and just really smoke
Yeah,
Argentina out?
I think the way in which Graham Arnold set up his starting 11 for each of the 4 games that we played at the World Cup was, you could very well argue that the best striker Australia has was not on the pitch, or the best centre mid that Australia has was not on the pitch, mainly because Krustic was also injured as well. You can also say that about the goalkeeper. Some people would have wanted Langerak to not only be in the squad but started, for example. I remember all these conversations happening online in comment sections, this and that.
Yeah.
Just don't ever look at Instagram comments, by the way, or Facebook comment sections. It just turns your brain to mush, and you end up just arguing with yourself. Anyway, I've been there, done that, and admittedly still do that. But I think I don't mind the fact that we had to play defensive route one against the team that hosts the eventual winners, and B, the greatest player of all time, of any era, of any sport, and any code of athleticism. So I don't mind that we did that. I wouldn't sit here and suggest that Mitchell Duke is the best striker that Australia has to offer, but for what he did for the side, the dogged work rate, and just tenacity, and again, I go back to saying bit between his teeth. It was helpful. It was bullish, and it held off defenders really well. There were players who had great tournaments who you couldn't drop. Players with, obviously, he's someone who, even just from his time at Sydney FC and the Mariners, that I can talk about. But specifically when I watched him closely with Sydney FC, he was a guy who would play the players who matched his philosophy and had, I'll go a bit colloquial, had that bit of dog in them. You know what I mean? The players that fit that for him is the players he would entrust with the responsibility. Well, that's why Keanu Bacchus came into the fold, despite having not played, I think, a single minute up until the Argentina game, and he was tasked with man marking Messi. And he did a pretty darn good job of it too. So, another Parkley Junior, by the way, Keanu Bacchus. So you know where to go if you want to become a Socceroo. You want to come play in the Blacktown Association. But yeah, no, I was totally fine with how we played. Unlikely to ever get the win, but a gallant performance. And I'm so proud still.
Yeah. So I think a couple of good things worked there. So Keanu Bacchus, for anyone who doesn't know, playing at Hearts at the moment in Scotland. People go, oh, it's like A-League plus competition. The standard, I suppose, is higher than the A-League. It's not heaps higher than the A-League, but it is. So Rangers and Celtic are another level above again. The rest of the comp is like a higher level than A-League by a bit. There's a robust competition. So if you're playing there, you're playing 46 games a year or 40 games a year. A very highly competitive football every game. You're not getting an easy day. They're all tough games. They're all physically tough games. And he would have been employed for that as well. And he's got the legs too, Keanu Bacchus, to be able to do it. Play a ball distribution role, which he did, and shut down his man. So play like an anchor in the midfield. Mitchell Duke, one thing I think helped him when he left the Mariners and went to Japan, they played him for the first 2 years as a fullback. And I think that made him play differently, made him change how he played and his philosophy. Realised, I'm a team player, I've got to play where the team needs me and do what the team needs me to do. And ever since he did that, he's come back, and I think he's been a better player ever since that. So, and he's gone back forward again. So, scores goals as a striker, but he makes the runs off the ball, does the stuff off the ball you need to do, starts to press higher, and then that helps you contain the other team, make them have to rush passes and stuff like that. And you could see it. So, just the philosophy, the whole team bought into what Graham Arnold was doing. And if we didn't win the qualifier, I think he would have got the sack. And I probably would have said, yeah, you should probably get the sack too if we hadn't.
One bit of discourse that I have not heard around Australia or the world at all is the actual importance of that qualifier against Peru, because I genuinely don't think we do anything like what we did or create anywhere near the kind of memories that we made in the World Cup of 2022 if we didn't have what was birthed from that win in penalties over Peru in Peru, no, with 90% Peruvian fans in the crowd.
Yeah.
What I understand the issues with the way we qualified and how we should have been through that group, this and that. At the end of the day, we didn't play any home games, bar I think 1 or 2 at the start of the qualifying before the COVID hit. So we had our backs against the wall from the start. Okay, we still made the World Cup, which I was happy with. How we got there is another thing. The objective fact is, it's not objective, but I think objectively we don't do anywhere near as good in the World Cup if we didn't have the squad togetherness that was built in that win over Peru. Bringing on a goalkeeper who had 2 caps before ever for a penalty shootout. That's a rarity. That's what you see in the video game. Having 99% of the fans be against you, having to come back from behind, taking. I think we took the second penalty in that as well, which is about a 30% chance of winning if you take the second penalty. That we had everything against us. Plus, Peru is a fantastic team, from Advin Kula at right back to their star playing in one of the Mediterranean, in one of the Middle Eastern countries on the left wing, whose name escapes me right now. We were not meant to win that, but the togetherness that was formed and the fact the players were still partying in their jerseys three days later was all part of it. And so proud of what we did. But again, I go back to saying there's no discourse around how important that qualifier was, even though it made it look like Australian football was in a bad place. But that is the reason why we did so well in Qatar.
Yeah. So Harry Suter, so he's been a good find too, say, for the Socceroos. Australia's had a lot of players. I remember in 2006 when we had Joshua Kennedy coming through. He was playing in Germany for a while. He was nobody to everybody else because he wasn't one of the big superstars playing at one of the big clubs, and coming from the outside, people are like, who's this guy? Well, I think he stepped up and shown he's the best defender, Harry Suter, in Australia.
Yeah.
Leicester got relegated, so he's gone down. Is he transferring out of there, or is he hanging around?
I think he'll hang around. Would have signed a long-term contract when he initially signed on from Stoke City. So he'll be there for the long run. And considering what I've seen from Leicester in their transfer business already so far, I think they might be in a position to jump right back up.
Yeah, they kept Jamie Vardy.
Yep.
Yeah, they need to do that. So that guy, talk about superstars coming from nowhere. So he is a guy that literally came from the equivalent in the UK of playing in Blacktown Association, smashed it up, got to the next level, which would be the equivalent of, I don't know, Prospect United, smashed it up. Got picked up by someone the equivalent of probably, let's say, Blacktown City, smashed it up. Then he ended at someone like, let's say, Central Coast Mariners, who had to get promoted to the Premier League, got up there, bang, they just turned it on, won the comp. So that's the equivalent of his career and what he did with Leicester. And Leicester, everyone would have thought they were going to do nothing when they won the Premier League. They had a team full of just guys that they had picked up from all over the place. Good bargains, good pickups, cheap players, free players, players from non-league clubs to start off with, and that's how you build things. That's how you build dynasties and how you build sides. They all played for each other. So sometimes you can have a mismatched balance with the players you've got. So I've got a couple of big questions for you now as we come to the end of this. So Dennis Bergkamp was your favourite player at Arsenal?
Yeah.
So let's think about all the players you've seen at the moment currently. Who's your favourite player currently?
Right now? Oh God. I'm just gonna blurt one out. I'm gonna say Martin Odegaard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, for Arsenal or just in general? Sorry.
Oh, anybody. I was gonna say, wow.
My word. My favorite player right now. Oh God. I'm a firm believer that Neymar is one of the most underappreciated football talents of all time. Yeah. I'll say that.
Do you think he'll leave PSG?
I think he should. His destination is unclear because no one will want to pick him up because of the injury record and his age and the wages he'll demand. But um, to me, it doesn't matter. I think his leg. He could retire right now, and I'll still consider him as one of the reasons why I still watch football. He is otherworldly. I love that guy.
Yeah. So and there's no one. So two more. So where you're sitting in your career at the moment, commentary wise, and running podcasts and everything like this, where do you hope to see yourself the next couple of years?
Next couple of years, I would hope to be in a position where I'm in a colder part of the world in an English-speaking country where I am plying my commentary trade at a professional level is where I hope to be and will plan to very much be.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic if you can get to that. You're on the way. You've got age on your side, so you've got the talent and ability, so you just keep on sticking with that. So, and the other thing, I suppose, so considering all the Blacktown Premier League players and everything you've seen, who is the best player you've seen floating around in the Blacktown Premier League at the moment? You would have seen
I'm
one.
gonna get the most stick for this. Oh gosh. Oh, this is disgusting. I reckon I could get in trouble for this too. Okay. Well, I'm gonna name. Okay. First of all, from Marion, I think Ryan Colborne is fantastic. I might seem biased for saying this as well, but from Doonside, the two Dominici boys, Kyle and Ryan, are utterly brilliant. I should say this from the second division. I think from Tigers, Byron Grandemainge, who's been twice now the Golden Boot winner, will probably be the player of the season again this year. Scored basically a hat trick of goal contributions in the All Stars match at the start of the year against Spartans 20s. He could go and play at whatever level he wants. Very capable. Oh gosh. And also for Marion, Rivaldo, who plays on the right wing, also occasionally comes onto the left. He's brilliant. But I have seen a plethora of brilliant talents, tenacious tacklers, people with brilliant work rates. I couldn't pick one. But the fact that Ryan Colborne came to my head was rather interesting. I love a good six. So
the high work rate, 100%. That's what you were talking about before. I'm talking about Keanu Backus. I knew you would end up picking a centre midfielder there. So nearly certain, or you were going to think of a striker, someone scores some dynamic goals or something like that.
I just like to think of myself as alternative, so I didn't go for the goal scorer. You know what I mean? I just think I'm a football hipster like that. That's why.
Yeah. So Martin Ergod, why did you pick Martin for Arsenal?
Well, he's the club's top goal contributor in the Premier League last year. A captain material, certainly. A kid who had a lot of people forget about his talents, who's been playing football for a long, long time already. He's been playing since he was a 15-year-old at a professional standard, signed for Real Madrid at age 16. Left-footed, which always makes you a better player. And at times he took the Arsenal team by the scruff of the neck and dragged them. At times, I think the entire team as a whole didn't step up when they needed to, and they had a double-digit lead over Man City in I think around 27, something like that. But I still think he's a great young player and integral to that side. But that's why I went for him for Arsenal.
Yeah. So it's ironic you said that. There's a fair level of irony to say the world's two best players are both left-footed in Australia. Say their best player is left-footed as well. So a lot of people say Harry Kewell's Australia's best player, left-footed.
Yep.
And Diego Maradona was left-footed only. He couldn't. I don't know if he could kick right-footed if he's going to save his life. And Lionel Messi just doesn't play right-footed. So he do everything not to play right-footed. That is very ironic. And Del Piero left-footed as well. So the irony, what is going on there? So
Del Piero could kick with any foot. I'll back that man till the end of time.
I have seen him whack him in both corners, both feet, at Juve and everywhere. So yes, anyway, that was very good chat. Appreciate that, Marc. Thank you for your time. I do hope to catch up with you sometime in the next couple of weeks. I will try to make time catch up with you if we can somewhere at one of the games that are around. So if you know what your schedule is, that will make it easier for me to catch up with you. And here we go, Marc. He is a talented young journalist / commentator / sports guy loves football, and is on his way up through the ranks. So stick around and keep watching, and you'll see plenty more of that. Thanks for your time, and I'll chat to you again soon, Marc.
Well, love, thank you very much for fitting me into your busy schedule. It's always an honor to be on this show. And thanks to all the listeners for sticking around to this point. And I hope you enjoy what you've heard.
Absolutely. Thanks, Marc.